Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. We begin today's satsang with a prayer followed by Muktakatrayam, which will be chanted by Sri Nandakumarji. Dakshinamurti Sarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvavighnopaşantaye Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya Vachikam Sarvavangmayam Aharyam Chandrataradi Tam Namah Satvikam Shivam. Namo Ramana.
Ekam aksharam hृदि nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate katham Hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahma matram yaham maham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati Hrudi vishamanasa swam chinvata majjata va pavana chalanarodha atmanishto bhavatum. Deham mrunmayavat jadatmakam aham buddhirna tasyastyatu naham tattata bhavashuddhi samaye Siddhatma sadbhavakah Koham bhavayuta kuto varadhiya Drishtatmanishtatmana Soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha purno vibhati swayam Soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। नमो रमण.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Upadesha Saram by Uma Shripati and Ashwini Balaji.
Namo Ramana. Idamaham padabhikyamannvaham ahamilinake chalaya sattaya vigrahendriya pranaditama nahamekasat tajjadam hyasat satvabhasika chitvavetara sattaya hi chet चित्तया ह्यहम् ईश जीवयोर्वेषधीभिदा सत्स्वभावतो वस्तु केवलम् वेषहानत स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईश दर्शनम् स्वात्मरूपत आत्मसंस्थिति स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्द्वयादात्मनिष्ठता ज्ञानवर्जिता अज्ञानहीन चेत् ज्ञानमस्ति किं ज्ञातुमन्तरम् किं स्वरूपम् इत्यात्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा अपूर्णचित्सुखम् बन्धमुक्त्यतीतं परं सुखम् विन्दति ह जीवस्तु दैविक अहमपेतकम् निजविभानकम् महदिदं तपो रमणभाग्यम्. नमो रमण.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the presentation of Ramananjali Sangeetam. 3 songs. First by Srimati V. Radha. The second one by Savitri Krishnan and Jai Shri Ram Krishnan. And the third one by Revati Shankar.
Namo Ramana to all. Today I have selected a song written by Sri Kavya Kanta Ganapati Muni, and the music is by Srimati Sulochana Natarajan. न करुणा गुण रमणा तव विदां पते रमण हृदय तेजस रमणा सहज वैवते रमण न करुणा गुण रमणा तव विदां पते रमण हृदय तेजस रमणा सहज वैवते रमण प्रसरतादित शुभ विलोकितं रमण ते सखो फल तुमे कृतं रमण जन्मिना आई भवाग्नुरो अभिदाश्रया स्तव महानुरो जगदहं पद स्फुरति मे त्रयं सदविदं गिरः तव विसंशयं त्वदुपदेशतो गलति संविदा मयि निरन्यया सदहमोर्विद अहमयोन्तर स्तममलं हृदि अनुभवे मभो स्तव कृपायदि न करुणा गुण रमण तव विदां पते रमण हृदय तेजस रमण सहज वैवते रमण न करुणा गुण तव विदां पते हृदय तेजस सहज वैवते तव तनुर्ज्वल त्यज विद्युत तव त्रगातता लसति भास्वत कबलितं मन स्तव विभो हृदा त्वमसि संततं विलसितो मुदा भुवन भूपते भुवन भूपते भगवत कृते भवसि पाचको यमवतां पते नरपशूनिमा नहमिताडयन्
परशिवोदनं वितनुषेपचन् न करुणा गुणरमण तव विदाम्पते रमण हृदय तेजस रमण सहज वैवते नमो रमण ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಬಂದ ಕರುಣೆ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಪಾದ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶರಣೆಂದೆ ಅವನಾಡೋ ಆಟಗಳ ಅರಿಯದೆ ಹೋದರು ಅರಿತೆ ಅವನ ಒಲವು ಇಹುದು ನನಗೆಂದೇ ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಬಂದ ಕರುಣೆ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಪಾದ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶರಣೆಂದೆ ಅವನಾಡೋ ಆಟಗಳ ಅರಿಯದೆ ಹೋದರು ಅರಿತೆ ಅವನ ಒಲವು ಇಹುದು ನನಗೆಂದೇ ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಬಂದ ಕರುಣೆ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಪಾದ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶರಣೆಂದೆ ಬಿರುಗಾಳಿಯಲಿ ಸಿಲುಕಿದ ದೋಣಿ ಆಗುವುದೇ ಬಾಳು ಅವನ ರಕ್ಷೆಯೂ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಬಿರುಗಾಳಿಯಲಿ ಸಿಲುಕಿದ ದೋಣಿ ಆಗುವುದೇ ಬಾಳು ಅವನ ರಕ್ಷೆಯೂ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಬಾಳಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾವಿರ ಬವಣೆಗಳಿಂದ ಪಾರಾಗಿ ಬಂದು ನಿಂತ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ನನ್ನದೇ ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಬಂದ ಕರುಣೆ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಪಾದ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶರಣೆಂದೆ ಅವನಾಡೋ ಆಟಗಳ ಅರಿಯದೆ ಹೋದರು ಅರಿತೆ ಅವನ ಒಲವು ಇಹುದು ನನಗೆಂದೇ ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಬಂದ ಕರುಣೆ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಪಾದ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶರಣೆಂದೆ ನನ್ನರಿವಿಗೆ ಎಟುಕದಂತ ವಿಷಯಗಳೆನಿತೋ ಮೂಢನಾದ ನನಗೆ ಅದರ ಪರಿವೇಯೇತಕೆ ನನ್ನರಿವಿಗೆ ಎಟುಕದಂತ ವಿಷಯಗಳೆನಿತೋ ಮೂಢನಾದ ನನಗೆ ಅದರ ಪರಿವೇಯೇತಕೆ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಎಂಬ ದಿವ್ಯ ಜ್ಯೋತಿ ಬಾಳಲಿ ಬೆಳಗುತ್ತಲಿರುವಾಗ ಭಯವು ಏತಕೆ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಎಂಬ ದಿವ್ಯ ಜ್ಯೋತಿ ಬಾಳಲಿ ಬೆಳಗುತ್ತಲಿರುವಾಗ ಭಯವು ಏತಕೆ ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಬಂದ ಕರುಣೆ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಪಾದ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶರಣೆಂದೆ ಅವನಾಡೋ ಆಟಗಳ ಅರಿಯದೆ ಹೋದರು ಅರಿತೆ ಅವನ ಒಲವು ಇಹುದು ನನಗೆಂದೇ ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಬಂದ ಕರುಣೆ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಪಾದ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶರಣೆಂದೆ ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಶ್ರೀರಮಣ ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಶ್ರೀರಮಣಾಯ. When there is multiplicity and multiple thoughts, we end up in confusion. But how do we get out of this confusion? We have to have one thought or one object, or there should be only one. That is what Ramana says. There is only the self, there is nothing else, and we call it as Ramana. When we see only one, when we see only Ramana, how can there be anything else? If we see a tree as Ramana, if we see a bird as Ramana, if we see all beings as Ramana, then we are seeing different things. But what does Ramana want us to do? He wants us to see only self and not the self in everything. That is what the poet here, Dr. Sharda, is talking about in this song. Who is to say what to anybody when Ramana alone exists and Ramana alone shines? This is a song written by Dr. Sharda, music by Sri L. Krishnan. யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில், யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில், ரமணன் ஒருவன் ரமணன், ரமணன் ஒருவன் ரமணன், ரமணன் ஒருவன் ரமணன், யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில். கிழக்கு எங்கே, மேற்கு எங்கே, வடக்கு எங்கே, தெற்கு எங்கே, வழியும் எங்கே, வீடு எங்கே, எங்கெங்கும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், எங்கெங்கும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், எங்கெங்கும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், எங்கெங்கும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில். காலை எதுவோ மாலை எதுவோ, விழிப்பு எதுவோ தூக்கம் எதுவோ, கனவும் எதுவோ நினைவும் எதுவோ, எப்போதும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், கணம் தோறும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், கணம் தோறும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், கணம் தோறும் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில். துளைத்ததெதனை அடைவதெதனை, பிரிந்ததெதனை சேர்வதெதனை, தேடி நாடி அடைவதும் யாரோ, அனைத்துமாய் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், அனைத்துமாய் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், அனைத்துமாய் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், அனைத்துமாய் ரமணனே இருக்கையில், யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில். நான் அவன் என்ற சொல் சுழலிலே அகப்படாதே பேதை மனமே, ரமணா எனும் பேரின்பு வெளியிலே, ரமணனே ரமணனாயிருக்கையில், ரமணனே ரமணனாயிருக்கையில், ரமணனே ரமணனாயிருக்கையில், ரமணனே ரமணனாயிருக்கையில், யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில், யார் எவரிடம் என்ன சொல்வது ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில், ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில், ரமணன் ஒருவனே இருக்கையில். More Ramana. We will now have the reading of the book Forever in the Now is in the Now by Sri Nandakumarji.
Namo Ramana. In this, our book reading segment of the Satsang, we continue our readings from Forever is in the Now, the timeless message of Sri Ramana Maharishi, edited and compiled by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. We have been reading the account of Mauni Sadhu. Mauni Sadhu, of course, is a pen name. Sudowski, a Polish person, a great spiritual sadhaka who has come to Bhagavan in the late 40s. He is writing this account. This is the second article. Sri Ramana, as I knew him, we have almost completed it. So I read the last few paragraphs to complete that article. After the master left this earth, I tried to analyze what it was in his appearance amongst us that was the most important and deciding thing for future generations. I reached the conclusion that it was he himself, because he showed the example of the final attainment, thereby making it accessible to us. So the wonderful way the author puts is that what is the acme of Bhagavan's avatara coming to earth is the avatara itself. After the master left this earth, I tried to analyze what it was in his appearance amongst us that was the most important and deciding thing for future generations. I reached the conclusion that it was he himself, because he showed the example of final attainment, thereby making it accessible to us. We continue this week's reading. An infinite eternal wisdom lies in all his utterances, and he confirmed it, being himself that wisdom. For example, how could one, seeing Maharishi's supremacy over matter and suffering when his body was attacked by a dreaded disease, so terrifying for the average person, ever doubt the possibility of his overcoming it were it necessary? If such a sage testifies to the immaterial truth of being, how could I seek something apart from it? The Maharishi himself knew well about his deciding role in the lives of those who were fortunate enough in their karmas to come to him from all sides of the world. He says, association with the sages who have realized the truth removes material attachments. These attachments being removed, the attachments of the mind are also destroyed. From those for whom attachments of the mind are destroyed, become one with that which is forever motionless. They attain liberation while yet alive. Cherish, therefore, the association with such sages. Satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatvatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktihi. That is this is the translation of that. Maharishi himself knew well about his deciding role in the lives of those who were fortunate enough in their karmas to come to him from all sides of the world. He says, association with the sages who have realized the truth removes material attachments. These attachments being removed, the attachments of the mind are also destroyed. For those for whom attachments of the mind are destroyed, become one with that which is forever motionless. They attain liberation while yet alive. Cherish, therefore, the association with such sages. So, Bhagavan himself tells more than the physical association with the Guru, it is the mental contact that is important. By mental contact means Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana of Bhagavan's teachings. So whenever we are doing this Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana of his teachings, then we are in touch with the sage, which will automatically lead to detachment from material world, which in turn will lead to detachment of mind. And when mind is detached, then the consciousness becomes nischala, and that is Jivan Mukti, says the verse. Let us go on to the next article. Feeling the presence, Sri Swami Omkar. Feeling the presence, Sri Swami Omkar. Swami Omkar, the introduction here. Omkar Swami, head of Shanti Ashram in Totapalli Hills, Andhra Pradesh, has contributed many articles in the ashrams, in that ashrams monthly called Peace. The Wikipedia article on Omkar Swami says quite a lot about the sadhana. He was present during Bhagwan's times, but he himself says he could not see Bhagwan. However, he had great regard for Bhagwan. Swami Shivananda ji and other devotees of Bhagwan would go there to Shanti Ashram, and he has himself done, according to the Wikipedia article, to save a girl's life. He has given part of his bone, I assume it's bone marrow transplant, at that time, for which he himself had to stay in hospital for many months, says the article. So without further discussing the author, we go into the article to reveal his nature and what he thinks of Bhagwan. Feeling the presence, Sri Swami Omkar. To me, Bhagavan is truth incarnate and light effulgent. Where is the moment when we are separate or aloof from that self-effulgent light, either in the past, present, or future? Although the essence is one and the same, temperaments vary and differ. By nature, from my boyhood days, I have never been after forms and names and crowds, but I have always been longing only for silence and to be alone, ever striving to feel his presence within in the stillness of the heart. Although physically I never saw Bhagavan with these eyes, I feel such an inseparable oneness with him. In the enquiry, who am I? Bhagavan and myself are not two but one. In the enquiry, who am I? Bhagavan and myself are not two but one. How blessed it is to feel the indivisible Atman, the infinite and eternal light, to be no other than our own self, the one without a second. Bhagavan used to send his blessings every year during the anniversary of the ashram. It was all ecstasy to hear Bhagavan, to hear that Bhagavan used to glance over the pages of our monthly Peace. Another great blessing has been that those who have been dear and near to the heart of Bhagavan, devotees like H.H. Swami, Rajeshwarananda ji, Shri Dr. Mahadevan, I suppose that is T.M.P. Mahadevan sir, Shri K.K. Nambiyar and other friends used to grace Shanti Ashram and spend days and months in rest and peace. All these seemingly trivial incidents bring me closer to Bhagavan, establishing my eternal relationship with him. Another recent happy incident has brought me nearer and made Bhagavan dearer. During our pilgrimage to Kotagiri South, while returning, myself and ashram members were blessed to stay as guests of Swami Rajeshwarananda at Madras. Suddenly, Shri K.K. Nambiyar came and requested me to go with him to his home, as he planned to show the motion picture of Shri Bhagavan and the Ramanashram. We spent a happy hour in the lovely home of Brother Nambiyar, filled and surrounded by the presence of Sri Bhagavan. The life-size picture of Bhagavan on the wall is very inspiring. Unconsciously, I began to introspect thus. Is Bhagavan confined to the picture on the wall? Or is he throbbing in my heart, sparkling in my eyes, and flowing in my breath? How blessed it is to feel his presence pervading and permeating the very cells of our bodies. As I saw scene after scene, Bhagavan meditating, Bhagavan reading, Bhagavan walking, Bhagavan with the devotees, Bhagavan with Lakshmi the cow, Brother Nambiar's home disappeared. The movie also disappeared. All forms and names disappeared. Only Bhagavan existed. His light alone was there within, without, above, below, and all around. So I read these two paragraphs. Although physically I never saw Bhagavan with these eyes, I feel such an inseparable oneness with him. In the inquiry, who am I? Bhagavan and myself are not two, but one. How blessed it is to feel the indivisible Atman, the infinite and eternal light, to be no other than our own self, the one without a second. And of course, the last paragraph, while he is watching the movie, we spent a happy hour in the lovely home of Brother Nambiar, filled and surrounded by the presence of Sri Bhagavan. The life-size picture of Bhagavan on the wall is very inspiring. Unconsciously, I began to introspect thus. Is Bhagavan confined to the picture on the wall? Or is he throbbing in my heart, sparkling in my eyes, and flowing in my breath? How blessed it is to feel his presence pervading and permeating the very cells of our bodies. As I saw scene after scene, Bhagavan meditating, Bhagavan reading, Bhagavan walking, Bhagavan with the devotees, Bhagavan with Lakshmi the cow, Brother Nambiar's home disappeared. The movie also disappeared. All forms and names disappeared. Only Bhagavan existed. His light alone was there within, without, above, below, and all around. As Revati was singing, Ramanane, Ramananai, Irukkail. The Way of the Spirit. The next article is The Way of the Spirit by M.A. Pigot. The introduction to the author. We find she is the first lady visitor from the west to Sri Ramanashramam. She is the first lady visitor. The Way of the Spirit, M.A. Pigot. I had visited India before, but it was my first trip off the beaten track, 1932-1933. Staying with the friends or in the luxurious hotels of Bombay and Calcutta, provided with modern conveniences, can give little indication of the conditions to be met with when leaving the highways. But this was an adventure in a cause, and nothing else mattered. For some years, it had been my wish to meet one of the real holy men of India, but so far it had been a vain wish. I had, it is true, spoken with a few saintly men and also some fakirs of the mediumistic type, who were no doubt sincere enough in their way, but they were not what I was seeking. Then I was told of Sri Ramana Maharshi, and even from the little I heard, I knew I would travel anywhere and put up with any inconvenience in order to reach him. The friend who gave me the welcome news of his existence offered to take me to him, and so we arrived at Tiruvannamalai late one afternoon. We put up at the none too clean accommodation, the Dak Bungalow, or traveler's rest house, which is all that is offered to the wayfarer who strays from the cities. No bedding is provided and there is seldom much furniture. But we left my servant to wrestle with such details and made our way to the bazaar and then to the ashram in a cart drawn by a pony. The end of our drive found us somewhat battered but full of expectation. Several of the people living in the ashram, mostly devotees, came out to greet us. Amongst us was the younger brother of the Maharishi. He was dressed in the ochre robe denoting a sannyasin, one who has renounced the world. The others were not strictly monks in the Western sense of the word, nor is an ashram a monastery. It is a place where people wishing to study or follow a spiritual life may live. Often there are no orders or binding rules, and anyone can come and go as he pleases. Even women, though not allowed to sleep on the premises, are welcomed. Most of the people spoke English and greeted me in a most friendly manner. This was encouraging, for I was nervous, having been told that I was the first European woman so far to visit the Maharishi, as he is generally called. We were then taken in at once to see him, and after making the Indian salutation by holding the two palms together and raising them thus joined to the forehead, we laid our offerings on the ground before him. He was seated on a divan upon which was spread a large leopard skin. In front of the divan, sandal sticks were burning and a small brazier of coals on which a special kind of incense was constantly being thrown. About a dozen people were present in the hall. They spoke in low tones to one another, and a child prattled to his mother. But soon these sounds ceased, and there was quiet. I sat cross-legged on the floor with the others, though a chair had been thoughtfully provided for me. For a while, nothing happened. I tried to concentrate my mind. Suddenly, I became conscious that the Maharishi's eyes were fixed on me. They seemed literally like burning coals of fire piercing through me. They glittered in the dim light. Never before had I experienced anything so devastating, in that it was almost frightening. What I went through in that terrible hour, by way of self-condemnation and scorn for the pettiness of my own life, would be difficult to describe. Not that he criticized, even in silence. Of that he was incapable. But in the light of perfection, all imperfections were revealed. To show how little responsible he was for my feelings, he told me later on that doubting, self-distrust, self-depreciation are some of the greatest hindrances to realization of the reality. That means Bhagavan doesn't judge, but is simply present, and in that presence all these come up. Presently the Maharishi got up and went for his evening walk. This was the signal for a general exodus, and we all trooped outside. One of the devotees offered to show us around the ashram, a cluster of small whitewashed buildings and huts, all spotlessly clean and joined together in some cases by a covered passageway. The ashram was picturesquely situated at the foot of the famous holy mountain of Arunachala. It was on this mountainside that the Maharishi took up his abode more than 30 years ago, and ever since then it has been his home. He was, at the time of my visit, about 50 years old, but looked older, owing no doubt to the privations and austerities practiced in early life. We stop there, and we hope to continue with Bhagavan's grace in the coming weeks. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana. Before we commence the practice, to listen to Bhagavan's Upadesham, we take one talk randomly. Talk number 423, 7th June 1937. We read for about 5 minutes and then we sit for the practice for about 10 minutes. Talk 423. A young man asked, I try to cultivate willpower, but do not succeed. How should I do it? No answer from the Maharishi. Maharishi is in Mauna. Devotee, I came here 3 years ago, and Sri Bhagavan said that willpower is necessary for strength of mind. Since then, I have been desiring to cultivate it without success, but without success. Maharishi, no answer again. Devotee, during these years, I have had 4 or 5 reverses. They upset me considerably. There is always the fear of failure haunting my attempts. This results in want of faith in myself, which certainly foredooms my efforts to failure. Nothing, in fact, succeeds like success, and also nothing foils one's attempts like failure. Hence my question. Maharishi, no answer. Devotee, is not willpower necessary for success? It should ensure success and also rule out failure. No answer from Maharishi. Devotee, I try to gain willpower. After these years, I find myself only where I began. There is no progress. No answer from Maharishi. Devotee, what are the means for gaining willpower? Bhagavan, your idea of willpower is success insured. Willpower should be understood to be the strength of mind which makes it capable of meeting success or failure with equanimity. Your idea of willpower is success insured. Willpower should be understood to be the strength of mind which makes it capable for meeting success or failure with equanimity. Willpower is not synonymous with certain success. Why should one's attempts be always attended with success? Success develops arrogance, and the man's spiritual progress is thus arrested. Failure, on the other hand, is beneficial, inasmuch as it opens the eyes of the man to his limitations and prepares him to surrender himself. Self-surrender is synonymous with eternal happiness. Therefore, one should try to gain the equipoise of mind under all circumstances. That is willpower. Again, success and failure are the results of prarabdha and not of willpower. A man may be doing only good and only noble actions and may yet prove a failure. Another may do otherwise and yet be uniformly successful. This does not mean that willpower is present in one and not in the other. Let us stay with that, because it is a great teaching from Bhagavan that both the impostors, success and failure, are values given by the mind to objective experience, and both are false, both are unreal, both are phalamashashvatam. So both the impostors have to be treated with equanimity. How to treat both the impostors with equanimity is to be turned in and to attend to the self, irrespective of whether one is facing within inverted commas success or within inverted commas failure. The inverted commas indicates that it is not that it is so-called success and it is so-called failure. Neither of them being real. Why we should spend any attention on them? Neither of them is going to be shashvata phala. Why we should pay any attention at all on them? Only the Atma is the shashvata phala. So to abide in the self, to be self-attentive, to be inward-turned, to be merged in the source, and to face both success and failure and all experiences of the world with the same equanimity, that is gaining willpower, says Bhagavan. Willpower is not success ensured. Each of the attempts meeting with an objective success, not at all. Then the mind gets carried away and it pushes us into the ocean of karma, says Bhagavan. The moment we forget that the phala is given by Ishvara and we feel that our own action has led to the success, then that foolishness, that ignorance pushes us into the ocean of karma and gati nirodhakam. It prevents us from ever reaching the everlasting happiness of the self, says Bhagavan in the first 3 verses of Upadesha Saram. So let us practice that. Let us hold that equanimity. What is that equanimity? That is the self-attention. Irrespective of what objects we are facing, irrespective of what works are presented to us by prarabdha of the Ishvara, it is for us to hold the Ishvara himself as the self within. One of the clues given by Bhagavan in the Upadesham to Amma is that the ordainer controls the destiny of the individuals remaining within the individual. So, even when the ordainer releases thoughts with which we may get carried away and fulfill the prarabdha, the ordainer cannot go anywhere. So the ordainer is present as the self-luminous self within each one of us, free of success and failure. So it is for us to hold the ordainer rather than what is ordained. The ordained will happen anyway. So why bother about that which will happen anyway? Hold that which is unchanging, that which is self-luminous, that which is the source of all karma, all success and failure, the ordainer himself, who is present as the self-luminous self. And the direct and the easy way of holding the ordainer, as Arjuna sat at Krishna's feet before the war, it is for us to ever hold the self-luminous self rather than engage who will come to us as support. What sainyas we will get to face the war is not important. Are we having Krishna on our side? Are we self-attentive? That is the only question. And the war is already won. Where is the war? Where is success? Where is failure? When the Atma is abided in. That is the Brahmastram given to us by Bhagavan. Let us sit in practice of that Brahmastram, where the equanimity is ever present. And the success and failure are merely dream-like and not at all bothered about. And they happen anyway. They happen anyway, or they do not happen. Who is there to bother? Only the self-luminous self is there. The ego which was concerned with success and failure is now no more present, and only the self-luminous self is present. To be abiding in that, Bhagavan gives us this practice of Atma-Vichara. When a thought arises and pushes us towards our destiny, if that has to be carried out anyway, we will not even be able to see that thought. We will be pushed into action. But whenever we can see the thought, let it go. Let the thought go and ask, for whom is this thought? This thought is for me. And who am I? The singular question to the self that one can ask takes us back to the source. With repeated practice of letting go of the sannyas and holding the feet of Sri Krishna, holding the feet of Sri Bhagavan, with repeated practice, all the vasanas are destroyed. The mind comes to Nischala Tattvam, and Nischala Tattvam is Jivan Mukti. Even though in the eyes of the world, one is still a Jiva, but one is no more a Jiva Bhava inside. It is only the Atmanishta, the Jivan Mukta, who is there inside, who is effortlessly abiding in the self as the self. With Bhagavan's immense grace, incredibly blessing us with this Brahmastram, let us practice it for 10 minutes. Revatima, you will help us out with the time. Namo Ramana.
We now have the sharing by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande of the work Shankara Digvijaya Guru Stuti.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. We're doing Manana on Srimad Shankara's Digvijaya, which Bhagavan calls as the Guru Stuti. So as we all did Manana last week, we said that Shankaracharya was going around the country debating with various exponents with exponents of various schools. He came to Mahishmati in the north, where Mandana Mishra, the exponent of Vedic rituals, lived. So he overcame him in debate, but his wife refused to concede a victory until she was also defeated. So Shankara argued with her and defeated her in all subjects except erotica. He then asked for a respite of 1 month, and after shedding his body in a cave under the custody of his disciples, entered into the dead body of King Amaruka and sported among the 100 queens in the guise of their husband. When the disciples found that the period specified by the Guru had already expired, they grew anxious, for some of them went in the disguise of minstrels and sang the following hymns to remind him. So let us listen to what Sapna. Let's listen to Sapna's chanting, please.
इत्यादि निगमा वचनेन निपुणं निषिध्यामूर्तामूर्तराशिं यदशावयनिह्नवं स्वात्मरूपतया जानन्ति कोविदास्तत्त्वमसि तत्त्वं नेति नेतीत्यादि निगमा वचनेन निपुणं निषिध्यामूर्तामूर्तराशिं यदशावयनिह्नवं स्वात्मरूपतया जानन्ति कोविदास्तत्त्वमसि तत्त्वम्.
Thank you, Swapna. So what's written in Shankara Digvijaya is rejecting with the help of Vedic dicta, like not this, all the manifest and unmanifest phenomena as unreal. The wise ones arrived at this irreducible self-nature which cannot be subjected to any further negation. You are that sublatable truth. Let's see what Bhagavan has to write about this. In the collected works, Bhagavan says, that is the truth which the wise realize as the self. The residuum left over on withdrawing from external objects, with or without form, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And by a careful application of the scriptural text, not this, thou art that. So So I thought let us do some manana on some of the talks which Bhagwan had mentioned with regard to Neti Neti. It's very important because today we're doing manana primarily on that. So the saints, so Avesta said, the saints Sri Chaitanya and Sri Ramakrishna wept before God and achieved success. Is that not the path to follow? Maharshi says, yes. This is talk number 32. Now, devotee says, can this physical body be made to disappear into nothingness? Maharshi, why this question? Can you not find out if you are the body? That's why Bhagavan is saying, when you question something, you're saying, is this the body? Devotee says, can we have disappearance from sight, like the yogis Vashishta and Vishwamitra? Maharshi, these are only physical matters. Is that the essential object of our interest? If you are not the self, why trouble about others matters? Why trouble about other matters? Take the essence, reject other learned theories as useless. I'll read this again. These are only physical matters. So when he's saying neti neti, he's talking about the physical aspect. He's saying that these are only physical matters. Is that the essential object of our interest? So what is our interest? Bhagavan is asking, are you not the self? Why trouble about other matters? Take the essence, reject other learned theories as useless. They who think that physical disappearance counts in freedom are mistaken. So it says that if you think by making something disappear, you are a great soul. It says your freedom is in freedom are mistaken. No such thing is needed. You are not the body. What does it matter if it disappears in one way or another? There is no great merit in such phenomena. In what does superiority and inferiority consist? Achievement of the real alone matters. So Bhagavan is trying to say here, unless you do neti 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 and then come to achievement of the real alone matters. So we've gone through our lives and we wanted to achieve many things in life. We wanted to have a good education and do some achievement there. We wanted to work. We thought that was achievement. Now we want to earn money. We thought that's achievement. So we had different achievements, different goals. But Bhagavan is saying achievement of the real alone matters. Everything else does not matter. See, for example, if any of us have retired from work, does it matter whether you are the biggest boss anywhere? It does not matter. So Bhagavan says the loss of the I is the main fact and not the loss of the body. Identity of the self with the body is the real bondage. If I continue to think I am the boss, if I was a minister and I continue to think, you will see a lot of cars. If you were a minister and he got thrown out of the minister, what he'll put an EX before minister, ex-minister. So everybody, he thinks he's still also a minister. So Bhagavan says that this is like that. Leave off the false notion and perceive intuitively the real. That alone matters. So all these labels that you put on this body and mind and all these things don't matter. If you melt a gold ornament before testing it to be gold, what matters it how it melted, whole or in parts, or what shape the ornament was? All you are interested in is if it is gold. The dead man sees not his body. It is the survivor that thinks about the manner in which the body is parted away. The realized have no death with or without the body. The realized man is equally aware and sees no difference. To him, the one state is not superior to the other. To an outsider also, the fortunes of a liberated one's body need not be of any concern. Mind your business. Realize the self. After realizing there will be time to think of what form of death is preferable to you. It is the false identity of the self, the body, that causes the idea of preference, etc. Are you the body? Were you aware of it when you were fast asleep last night? No. What is it that exists now and troubles you? It is I. Get rid of it and be happy. So this is a beautiful talk number 32, which talks about neti neti. See, unless you see, one thing you can do is try to go out in the world and say, oh, that is, tree is not God, this is not God, no, that's not the self, that is not the self. Instead of going all around the world, Bhagavan says you go inside and try to understand who you are. See, there have been a couple of examples. Bhagavan himself sang his own glory. He would sing, Ramanaya, Ramanaya, Ramanaya Namo, Ramanaya, Ramanaya, Ramanaya Namo. People ask him, why are you singing your own glory? Then Bhagavan used to say, who do you think am I? So I am not this body. So he is saying neti neti there itself. And what Nandkumar also read, he says that there was this human being, there was this man, God in the form of a man, who had such a lot of pain in the body, but because of his cancer, but it was not bothering him at all. Why? Because he knew he was not, he had done neti neti and said, this is not me, this is not me. This is a very important thing that we need to understand. So though he sang his own praise, he was trying to indicate, don't follow this body, because this body is going to go away. This is not me, and I am the self. The other example that Nandkumar also quoted the other day was that when he was sitting near the barricade and waiting for people to come. So what did he see? Everybody says, oh, Bhagwan, don't go near them. Bhagwan says, when there's clarity in your mind who that person is, he's not the body, mind, ego, he's the Satchidananda Atman, then it does not matter whether the king is coming or a beggar is coming, a monkey is coming, a dog is coming, a squirrel is coming, a pigeon is coming. It really doesn't matter for Bhagwan. Why? Because he sees everything as Bhagwan Swarupa. This is a very important thing. So he initially will say neti neti, oh, he is this is not true, this is not true, this is not true. But Bhagavan says when you are established in the self, see, to experience the self, you have to be established in it. You can't be outside it. You can't be outside a AC room and say, oh, the room is very cold. Outside. No, you have to go get into the room and sit in that room to experience the AC. Exactly the same thing. It's very simple. If you want to experience the self, you will be abiding in the self, you have to be there. So Bhagavan says that's what it is. That so when the devotees came, he only saw the self. That's where Bhagavan is trying to say, this neti neti is a very, very powerful tool that can be used, and that's part of the first part of the stuti. Another talk was talk number 145, with Paul Brunton, only to make the people realize that they are on par with this world, and that the self alone is real. The religions are according to the viewpoint of the seeker. Take the Bhagavad Gita for instance. When Arjun said that he would not fight against his own relatives, his elders, in order to kill them and gain the kingdom, Shri Krishna said, not that these, you or I, were not before, are not now, nor will not be hereafter. Nothing was born, nothing was dead, nor will it not be so hereafter, and so on. Later on, as he developed the theme and declared that he had given the same instructions to the sun through him, Arjuna raised the doubt, how could it be? You were born a few years ago. they lived ages ago. Then Shri Krishna, understanding Arjuna's standpoint, said, yes, there have been so many incarnations of myself and yourself. I know them all, but you do not know. So, important thing that Bhagavan is trying to say in this Guru Stuti first verse is that is when we are sitting in satsang. Why are we sitting in satsang? We want to understand the truth. Sat means truth. Sangha means we are all here to understand and move towards the truth. So Bhagavan says that is the truth which we wise realize as a self. So why cannot we each one of us be wise? Why has only Bhagavan to be wise? Why have only very few people to be wise? Because we have not done enough of manana and nididhyasana. We have not taken it as the only purpose of our lives. If we take self-inquiry and surrender and realizing the self is the only purpose of our lives, then everything else will become neti. I don't want this. This is not going to take me to God. This is not going to take me to God. This. If something is there, somebody says, okay, let's go on a holiday to London and spend 2 weeks. No. That's not going to take me to God. It's going to it'll excite my senses or I'll see some new places, but it's not going to take me to myself. It'll take me away from the self. Neti. So, important thing that Bhagavan is saying is that, and if you look at physically also, Bhagavan had very little on him. So, the important thing that Bhagavan says in this is, not this, that thou art. Tattvamasi, you are that. And more we do self-inquiry, we'll understand that Aham Brahmasmi. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Jnana Vichara-padalam by Dr. Kalanand.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. அருணாச்சலமென அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சலம். More Ramana to all. With the abundance grace of Bhagavan, we are meditating on Devi Kadotra Jnana Vichara Padalam, very graciously given to us by Bhagavan in Tamil. And in the last satsang we saw Bhagavan explaining the state of Bhukti. Achittam Achariyam Indriyadai தான் மாது அற என்றும் ஆலம்பமெல்லாம் அற்றதாய். When the mind is bent on going out, drag the mind from outside attachments. Because only when the wandering nature of the mind is destroyed, it can become pure. For that, through sadhana, one must forbid the mind from catching hold of the worldly things. When there is no attachment, the mind is pure. Desires can not even touch the pure mind. There can be no flaw found in the pure mind. This state is given by jnana and is called mukti. The next stanza Bhagavan says, when the mind is completely withdrawn from the worldly attachments, like family attachment, society attachment, patriotic attachment, from all desires, because desire and expectations are the base for all attachments. When the mind is completely out of these things, alambam ellam aravitte, what happens when the mind is dragged from the worldly happening without any trace, even not a bit should be left out, because even if a small trace is left out, he will become a very big samsari. I'll tell you an example. Once a guru was there and he went for Tirtha Yatra, leaving behind his Shishya on a river bank and asked him to do tapas till he comes. The Shishya was also doing tapas, but one day there was a heavy downpour which he could not bear. So he constructed a very small hut for himself with dry leaves that he got from the forest. he used to pluck some fruits for eating and used to keep them in the hut safely. But what happened? Rats came to share the feast. When he was hungry and wants to eat the fruit, he would have been left out with half. Each fruit will be half eaten by the rats. So he thought, if there is a cat, rats won't come. So he got hold of a cat, tamed it, and his fruit was very safe. But now a new problem arose. The cat needed milk. Oh God, what to do? He went inside the town and got a cow as yachaka. Now, cat is happy because it got milk. But this person is put into trouble because he has to find fodder for the cow. So he has to spend some time in finding fodder. The time for doing tapas started reducing. He could not look after the cow by himself. So he wanted someone to help him. So he arranged for a helper. And he has to be fed. The helper has to be fed, isn't it? So he needed someone to cook. In this process, he ended up with a wife. After some time, the wife said, I am afraid of living in this forest. Come, let us go and live in the town with people around us. The Guru came back from Tirtha Yatra and could not find his Shishya there. And in Jnana Drishti, he could infer what all happened and went to the town and saw his Shishya as a Grasta and a merchant, a very successful merchant living in a three-story building. This will not happen. That's why Bhagwan says, don't leave even a trace of attachment that will lead you to become a very big samsari. Moreover, by sadhana, sometimes the mind will be inside, no wonder. And the left out attachments, what does it do? The vasanas will push the mind outside again. So this going and coming will be continuing. Ammanattai idayate yela taripittu. Bhagavan says, so what is to be done? Merge the mind, abide the mind inside the heart very strongly, not giving any way to come out again. That is the state when there will be no vasanas in the mind. When there is no vasanas, the mind attains the eligibility to merge with the self stubbornly. When the mind or the ahankara is stable with the heart, Purana, the pure awareness, shines with great brightness. Tanai ulirva. Don't miss that pure consciousness. Let the pure awareness be so strong so that it will not allow the mind to come out and wander. Do this, Bhagavan says, do this as a practice repeatedly. When one does that sadhana, the mind itself. After that, no attachment can disturb the mind at all. The mind will be like a rope that is completely burnt out. In this pure, flawless mind, God's grace is realized. When the God's grace is shining, no attachment can enter the mind. No attachment can enter the brightness. It will be free of all thoughts, desire, attachment, expectations, everything. Bhagavan says, only the non-attachment in the mind leads to mukti. Till the truth is realized, do the abhyasa with great faith. There should be no doubt, without any frustration. Om Namo Bhagavate Shiva.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Ramana Chatvarimshat, by Shri Ujjwal Jagadish.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Vairagyam Tava Vittamastu Karunam Shaknoshi Hatum Katam Dushastestu Samudyama Pitrapada Dhyanam Chakim Tadrisham Kamastestu Vigalhito Vinamatam Raksha Cha Kim Garhita Skanda Chagma Manushya Kim Nu Samayam Kanchet Samudvikshase Ramananige Loka Guru Vige Namana Ramananige Loka Guru Vige Namana Vairagya Ninanidiyagirali Karuneya Torevudu Sariye Nindisalalhavagirali Swayatnavu Tande Adidhyana Hagiralu Sadhyave Kama Utiraskarisalarhavu Bhaktara Rakshane Tiraskarisabahude Manushya Chagmadara Skandane Yavasu Samayakke Kadiruve Ramananige Loka Guruvige Namana Ramananige Loka Guruvige Namana. Ganapati Muni in this verse of Ramana Chatvarimshat is experiencing the viraha with that Supreme, and he is requesting in various ways for that beloved Ramana, who is none other than the human formed Skanda, to quickly come and fulfill that desire which destroys all the other desires, to fulfill that supreme desire. He is requesting the beloved Ramana to come, and he is giving various reasons. Oh, Ramana, you are the Vairagya Murti. You are the one who is known for his detachment. Yet, is it right for you to be detached from the Karuna? Is it right for you to not show Karuna to your devotees? And they say that the Swayam Yatna, the self-effort in one direction, is supposed to have mistakes. It is not right to think that we will achieve through Swayatna, but the effort towards reaching your lotus feet, which is shining within our heart, is even that effort filled with an error? Is it the right thing to do? And Ramana, we all know that desires has to be given up, because desires is the root cause of sorrow. But to desire your rakshane, to desire your protection, and you desiring the good of your devotees, is that also wrong? So Ramana, why are you wasting time? Are you waiting for any good reason, a good time for you to manifest amidst us? This is the prayer of Ganapati Muni on behalf of all the devotees. And Muruganar Swami, as a maiden, as a naika, he writes a song. He says, Kanasinali savidena sudeya Halu jenina ruchigu mirida Swarga sukhavane dore nanage nidida. That supreme bliss which is beyond the sweetness of halu and jenu, that is milk and honey, that Swarga Sukha he gave in my dreams But as soon as I open my eyes, I don't see him. He is missing. And she says, Kare tanni dumbigale nanna doreya, kare tanni binnavisi nanna moreya. She says, oh, bees, why don't you take my message and reach this message to my beloved Ramana and tell him to come quickly. And Muruganar Swami, he writes a reply of the bees, and the bee says, Anandada nelayinda vanchitalagi vyatayalli sandesha kalisuve priye. You have come out of that Ananda, the supreme state, and you are sending message. Where is that Nayaka that you are sending message for? He is there within you as the heart Nayaka, as the Arunachala Ramana in your heart cave. To see him, you don't have to send message outside. What you need to do is to stop thinking, be silent and turn within. That is the only way to be united with your supreme beloved, says as a reply those divine bees. Similarly, in this, when Ganapati Muni is telling, Vairagya is your true nidhi, but is it right for you to be detached from your devotees? Ramana, through his detachment, through his Vairagya, has shown us what true love is by dropping all the comfort of his house, all his family members coming to Arunachala. He has made the whole universe his house. He has made the whole world his family, and every being his child or his family member. Such is the glory of the Vairagya of Ramana. And they say that the Swayatna, to have the Swa Udyama, to have self-effort, is said to be a thing that is filled with error. For this, we have a story in one of our Upanishads, which is called the Keno Panishad. Long time back, as we all know, the Indra and his army, they won the battle over the Asuras. And Indra and other his devatas, the Varuna Deva, Vayu Deva, and Agni Deva and other devas, they were filled with this pride, saying that we have won over these Asuras by our effort. And they completely forgot of the divine power which makes us move. So that divine power, that supreme Father, he, to teach them lesson to all these devatas, he appeared in the form of a beautiful, handsome, charming Yaksha. Somebody told me Yaksha is just like how we have X in algebra. So Yaksha is some unknown manifestation which was so charming. That charming manifestation appeared in the gates of the heaven, the Swarga, and he was standing in that brilliance. And the gatekeepers were confused. They did not know who this charming man was. So they went to the court of Indra and they reported, oh Indra Maharaja, a charming young man has come and he is waiting outside at the gates and we are not able to find out who he is. So you should do something and find out for what reason he is standing there. And Indradeva was about to leave. Vayudeva said, oh, Indra Maharaja, you don't take trouble. I will go and find out who this Yaksha is. And he goes to the gate and he sees this charming Yaksha and he says, who are you? And the Yaksha replies, I will let you know who am I, but can I know who you are? And the Vayudeva told, don't you know? I am Vayudeva. I have the power to blow away anything in this whole universe. I have that power, says Vayudeva. And the Yaksha says, oh, is that real? Really so? Can you please prove that to me that you are Vayudeva? And he pulls out a small strand of a grass and he places it there. And he says, can you please blow this small piece of grass? And the Vayudeva says, I can blow the whole world. What is this small piece of grass? Thinking that it can be easily done, he just does a oof to that grass, and that grass does not move, then in various ways he tries to blow the grass. He huffs and puffs, but the grass does not move. And he puts all his power and he tries to blow that grass, but still that grass is not moving. And he is not able to prove who he is. Such is the power of this question, which Ramana also says us to hold on to. When we ask, who am I? Who am I without the work that I do, without all the attributes I associate myself with? Who am I if I'm not this body? Who am I if I'm not this image? Who am I if I'm not the thoughts? Who am I if I am not anything that I hold on to myself? We are shaken. Such is the power of that question, who am I? And Vayudeva is shaken and embarrassed. He goes back to the court without answering. He just puts his head down and sits in his seat. The Agni Deva says, I will find out who he is. And he goes in the same way. The Yaksha says, I will let you know who am I. Who are you? Agni Deva says, I am the one who can burn anything in this world. And Yaksha says, will you please prove it to me by burning this small piece of grass? Agni Deva also tries in various ways to burn this small piece of grass, but he fails miserably, and without giving an answer to that, Yaksha goes back to the court, and in this way the gods come out to prove themselves, but everybody fails and goes back to Indra's court. And Indra says, who is this Yaksha? None of my members of my court are able to find out who this Yaksha is. I will myself go and find out who this Yaksha is. And Indra, who is said to be the one with Sahasra Aksha, that is, he has 1,000-eyed Indra, he goes to see that Yaksha. And when he goes to the gate, he finds that the Yaksha is not to be seen. And he searches for him everywhere. They all told that he's so charming, he's so beautiful, and I'm not able to even see him. How unfortunate I am. Then at that moment he surrenders. At that point of time, the mother Haimavati, she appears before Indra and she says, oh Indra, you were filled with the pride that you had achieved with your effort, your prayatna. But understand the truth that tena vina trinamapi na chalati. Without his supreme grace, even the grass will not move. So understand this truth and hold on to that supreme power which enables you to do all the work. So here Ganapati Muni says, they say the swayatna is of no use, but to turn within and to hold on to that power within which makes us enabled to do all the work. Is it also has to be rejected, saying that it has an error? Ramana says, to achieve something outside, the prarabdha may come and obstruct. You may not be able to achieve in the outside world in the direction that you are moving. But in our inner sadhana, the prarabdha does not have any hold, that you can turn back within and attain that supreme Father's feet which is there shining within. And Ramana reminds us that also your prayatna there is no mistake in the prayatna of turning within, but you need to have complete faith in that supreme Father, that Father who alone can give us the phala for all the actions, all the actions that we do in the world, and also the action of turning within. He is the one who gives us the fruit of the supreme knowledge of his lotus feet. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Ramana, we will now have the chanting of Akshara Manamale we will have the sharing of Ramana Ashtotram by Dr. Shata.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. by the immense grace of the Self manifest as Ramana, we are blessed to continue the sharing on Bhagavan's Ashtottara Shatanamavali composed by Vishwanatha Swami. We are on the Nama Om Pitrapadan Veshine Namaha. Just now we have heard Ujjwal Jagadish meditating on one part of the Ramana Chatvarimshat verse where Ganapati Muni is asking Vairagyam tava vittamastu karunam shakno shihatum katam dushyastestu samudyama pitrapada dhyanam chakim tadrisham. So is it wrong to meditate on the feet? Pitrapada dhyanam, he says. Is it wrong to meditate on the feet of the Lord? Even though it is duality, every form of duality should be put aside. One should get into the non-dual essence of the truth. Even so, is Pitrapada Dhyanam, is it something which is to be put away? This is a question which he is asking Ganapati Muni. Here, Bhagavan has given the answer through his life, as it were, because he says, Vishwanatha Swami is saying, Pituradeshata Shona Shailam Praptaha Tapomayaha. So this Pitrapadan Veshi, Pituradeshata Shona Shailam Prapta, and then Tapomaya. Pitrapadan Veshi, he is in search of his father's feet. And why? Because of the Adesha, because the order has been given to him to come there. I have set out in search of my father in obedience to his command. This was the letter written by him, and he had left the home on the 29th of August 1896. And Bhagavan, after traveling by train some distance, he reached, through the instructions given by Arunachala, he reached the Viluppuram station. Although he had planned first, he thought the route was through Tindivanam. He reached the Viluppuram station, and from Viluppuram, he found that he had little money left over because the hotel keeper in Viluppuram asked him not to pay for his meal. From there, he took the train to Mambalapattu, and from there he walked. He walked right up to Ariyaninallur, and being extremely tired, although he had the great darshan of a light in the Ariyaninallur temple, he asked for some food to eat. And the priest in Ariyaninallur guided him to go to Kidur. At the Kidur temple also, he did not get food initially because he was told that food was given only to those who served there physically. And then a drummer saw in him the very manifestation of the Shiva Tattva, that glory, that radiance he saw in him, and offered to him his share of the food. So he was to have his share, the drummer's share. He would have eaten that part of the drummer's share of prasadam. But as he was going towards the place to find some water, maybe to wash his hands and feet, maybe because he was thirsty, before he could find the water, he swooned, and the food, most of it was scattered on the road. When he woke up from his swoon, this young boy of 16, he got up, he ate whatever food was scattered from the road itself. He ate that food, and he lay down for the night in the veranda, in the outside portion of the house, on a stone slab. He slept there. Early morning, he decided to go seek food in that house itself. That was the house of one Muttu Krishna Bhagavatar. And that day was Gokulashtami. It was the day of Krishna's birth, Janmashtami, Krishna Janmashtami. And on that day, this young boy, radiant young boy, shining, resplendent with the glory of his self-awareness, he stood in front of that house and he asked whether he could get some food. Now the people of the house, the husband and wife, they invited him into the house itself. They invited him into the house because they felt that on this particular day, right in the morning, there is this young, radiant youth who has come home. He must be Sri Krishna himself. They felt that he was Sri Krishna himself. Bhagavan says that the lady of the house was very affectionate. He reports later that she was very affectionate, very kind. And one has an intuition that probably they must have been great sadhakas. They must have been great devotees of Krishna. It is not very easy for one to see a stranger as a very embodiment of Krishna. It is true that in those times, every visitor was welcome to the house, food would be given. Especially in many homes, they had the practice that the food, without giving food to the Atiti, they would not have their food. So this practice was there, and they had that love for everyone as a manifestation of the Supreme. But here it was something very special which they could recognize. Just give me one moment. I'm sorry. I think I need to connect to another source. I'm sorry about that. I had to connect to a power source for my device. So we are meditating on Bhagavan's arrival at the house of Muttu Krishna Bhagavatar. The function, the festival on that day is Janmashtami, which means typically the festival is celebrated at midnight on that day. The festival is not a morning festival. Like Shivaratri, Janmashtami is an evening or a night festival, though the preparations for it may happen from the morning. So the preparations, the sweets, everything is prepared during the day, but it will be offered to the Supreme. When will it be offered to Krishna? It will be offered to Krishna at night. And so we had intuitively in our dance drama, we had the inner vision of that couple, that lady of the house, who, when Bhagavan first went in, although probably the cooking had not been done and the offering to the gods, of course, offering to Krishna was probably just being prepared, and even the food for the day would not have been cooked. But she invited him in with love, feeling that he is Lord Krishna himself who has come. And how could Lord Krishna, who is just to be born on that day as a young baby, come in the form of a 16-year-old? Because the power of Krishna is what is seen by us. When we say somebody is divine, that person is Krishna himself. He is Shiva himself. I can see you as a very embodiment of Shiva. I can see you as a very embodiment of Krishna. It is not the form that we see. It is not the age that we see. Although during Krishna Janmashtami, there is a tradition that we draw the little feet of Krishna coming into the house right from the doorstep up to the altar, the puja, where the decoration is done for Krishna. And some people say, how can it be when Krishna was just born, how can he walk in with those steps? Or how can you offer to him what is offered on that day? What is offered is what Krishna likes. Butter is offered. Often Dr. Ambika Kameshwar, my sister, she says that Krishna would steal butter because butter is the clear mind. It is the mind which has been churned with inquiry, churned with every rise of every emotion being turned back to the source, and that clarified butter which comes from the churning of life, that Krishna loves to have. That mind which has come from the manthana. The Amrita Manthana is also a manthana. It is a churning out of which nectar comes. And that nectar of the pure mind, that pure mind which is surrendered to him completely, Krishna loves to eat. And so this Krishna Ramana, he went to that house on Gokulashtami to have 2 meals in that house. He had 2 meals in their house. He spent almost the whole of Gokulashtami there. What is a great, there are many songs, the great blessing which Yashoda had, Mother Yashoda had. It is said, Taye Yashoda, what great tapasya have you done? That Krishna came to your house as a child. He came to you and he was fed by you. And Rajkumar Bharati, Dr. Rajkumar Bharati, has written a poem on all those who have fed Bhagavan. Yenna punyam seidanaro. He says, what great tapas have these people done, and to feed the one who feeds the entire universe with love for the self. He feeds the entire universe with love for the self. What a great blessing, what great tapasya these people must have done to be able to feed him. Shreyar Natarajan, in his book Timeless in Time, refers to many mothers who fed Bhagavan during his years on the hill as those with sacred hands. Although this lady of Muthu Krishna Bhagavata's house does not feature in that part of the biography, she too surely has sacred hands. And she first fed Bhagavan, that young Venkatraman, with probably the leftover, the old food. She first gave to him as if first you have to give all that is past. One of the devotees asks Bhagavan, I think it is P.P. Ramachandra here, how to remain, how to get rid of all the thoughts, how to remain in the self. Bhagavan says, first, what all has happened in the past, everything that has happened in the past, offer it to God by recognizing it has all happened by God's will alone. Everything has happened till this moment, everything has happened only by God's will. Recognize that. Then you will not have a single thought about the past anymore. And when you do that, says Bhagavan, automatically you will not have a single thought about the future either. If you have dropped the past entirely, then there will be no worry, no anxiety about the future. When there is no anxiety, no worry, where is thought going to rise? There is no desire. Even if desire is there, there is no anxiety about it. So thought will not arise. Desire is usually combined with anxiety. So that desire, which is not combined with anxiety, absolutely free, even if it is, it would be a Shuddha Sankalpa. It would be a Sat Sankalpa. So Bhagavan says, drop the past entirely. And that is what this devotee did. She fed him with that which was the past. She fed him first with that which was the past. And next, she fed him the present by what she had cooked then. That was the regular meal when the meal time came. And thirdly, she gave to him the Naivedya which she had prepared for her future, for the night. But instead of waiting to do the Naivedya to Krishna, she gave him that Naivedya. What would Bhagavan do with that Naivedya? He didn't eat it. He had already eaten the past. He had already eaten the present. There was no future left. That was a meaningless bundle which she gave him. It was not there. So it was simply thrown into the tank, saying there is no future. There is no samskara left. There is nothing left to eat. So he threw it he was to throw it later, but this was the beautiful day of Krishna Janmashtami when he was given the meal of the past, present and future by that devout lady and supported by her husband, Mutta Krishna Bhagavata. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
We will now have the chanting of Aksharamana Male by Srimati V. Radha and Vallabh Srinivasan.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Tera Dutrana Tiruvarunidhiya Tiyakam Tirtharularunachala. தைரியமோடு முன்மெய்யகம் நாடயம் தட்டழிந்தேன் அருளருணாச்சலா. தொட்டருட்கைமை கட்டிடாயினியம் நஷ்டமாவேன் அருளருணாச்சலா. தோடமில் நீயக தோடொன்று என்றும் சந்தோடம் ஒன்றிட அருளருணாச்சலா. நகைக்கிடமில்லை நின் நாடிய எனை அருள் நகையிட்டு பாதி அருணாச்சலா. நாடிலை நாடிட நானாயொன்றினி தாணுவ நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா. நின்னெறி எரித்தென்னை நீராக்கிடும் முன் நின்னருள் மழை பொழி அருணாச்சலா. நீனானர புலி நிதங்களி மயமா நின்றிட நிலையருளருணாச்சலா நுண்ணுரு உன்னையான் விண்ணுரு நன்னிட எண்ணலையிருமென்றருணாச்சலா மூலறிவறியா பேதையன் என்றன் மாலறிவருத்தருளருணாச்சலா நெக்கு நெக்குருகியான் புக்கிட உன்னை புகழ்ந்த நான் இன்றனை அருணாச்சலா நேசமில் எனக்குன் ஆசையை காட்டி நீ மோசம் செய்யாதருள் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் வாழி நண்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமணம் மாலை வாழி. நமோ ரமண.
Namo Ramana. We will now conclude the satsang with the Ashtotara Puja to Bhagavan. The Ashtotara Puja will be conducted at the Ramana Maharshi's Heritage Center's campus meditation hall by Ujjwal Jagadish. The Ashtotara chanting will be done by Vaibhavji and Prarthana and Uma and Ashwin.
नमो रमण. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः. ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः. ॐ गुरवे नमः. ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः. ॐ महौजसे नमः. ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः. ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः. ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः. ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः. ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः. ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः. ॐ सहायां वा सहायवते नमः. ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः. ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः. ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः. ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः. ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः. ॐ तीव्राय नमः. ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः. ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः. ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः. ॐ तपोमयाय नमः. ॐ उदासीनाय नमः. ॐ महायोगिने नमः. ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः. ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः. ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः. ॐ सुसन्दशे नमः. ॐ सवित्रे नमः. ॐ स्थिराय नमः. ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः. ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः. ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः. ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः. ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः. ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः. ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणातिकाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः ॐ गम्भीराय नमः ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ ईड्याय नमः
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः ॐ आप्ताय नमः ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ॐ समदृशे नमः ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः ॐ सत्याय नमः ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः ॐ श्री शोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः रसज्ञाय नमः ॐ सौम्याय नमः ॐ आत्मवते नमः ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः ॐ महाभागाय नमः ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः ॐ विनताय नमः ॐ विनुताय नमः ॐ विप्राय नमः ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः ॐ रुच्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः ॐ स्मरणात्मन्दमोचकाय नमः ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः ॐ गुहाय नमः ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः ॐ भवरोगभिषग्वराय नमः ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः ॐ देवतमाय नमः ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः ॐ सेनान्ये नमः ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संगिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡು ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की
जय
Jai.
Namo Ramana to everyone.